Robert McCall starts off ahead of schedule to go to work at Home Store. McCall has an OCD that makes him time all that he does, from preparing for work to simply washing the dishes. He is regarded and popular among his colleagues, who have no clue about his past. McCall can't sleep most nights, so he goes to a local 24-hour diner and reads novels while drinking tea. At work, two of McCall's teenage co-workers inquire about his previous employment. He joked about being a pip for Gladys Knight, and does a little dance for them. That night, he returns to the diner and runs into the same female. He's reading a new book, she notices. A limo arrives across from the diner as they are talking. She informs her pimp that she does not want to work with this customer because she considers him repulsive. When the automobile door opens, an obese man stands there waiting for the girl. She reluctantly goes outdoors to join him. McCall runs into the girl in the diner the next night, but she has a bruise on her face. He hands her a donut he brought from work. She breaks their customary etiquette and sits with him at his table. She identifies herself as Terry, despite the fact that her real name is Alina. They leave the diner talking and wander for a while. A car approaches them as they are about to split ways for the night. It's Slavy and his chauffeur. Slavy emerges and slaps Alina. McCall considers interfering, but Alina stops him. Slavy approaches McCall, hands him a business card, and suggests he choose another girl. McCall then goes a few days and nights without seeing Alina, clearly anxious about her. One night, he learns from the diner's management that Alina is in the intensive care unit after being severely battered. McCall arrives and finds Alina's face considerably more battered and swollen. He also notices Mandy. Later, Mandy is going to get a cup of coffee, but it overflows. McCall consoles her and asks about Alina, emphasizing that he is a friend. Slavy hit Alina, and she hit him back, according to Mandy. McCall visits the restaurant where Slavy and his men are hanging out using the card Slavy handed him. In exchange for Alina's freedom, McCall enters the office space above the restaurant carrying an envelope containing $9,800, while the thugs laugh at McCall. Following that, he mocks McCall's offer and advises him to go home and jerk off 9,800 times. However, McCall decides to stay and locks the door. He sets the timer on his watch and begins to move after carefully assessing the men and any weapons they may be carrying. When one of the men points his gun at McCall, the other one shoots Slavy in the throat after McCall takes the other man's arm. Then he pokes that man's eye with a shot glass. He uses his own knife to attack the third man, then obtains a corkscrew and repeatedly stabs TV until he is killed by having it inserted under his chin. After the killings, Teddy, the Russian mobster, travels to Boston to find out what happened to Slavy and his guys. To continue his search for the murderer, Teddy is taken by one of the corrupt police officers, Frank Masters. To the gangster John Looney's, Teddy and all Russians in general are denigrated by John. Teddy responds by hitting John with an ashtray. Teddy keeps punching John in the face until he passes out. Remmer and Peterson, the other two filthy officers, are dining at Ralphie's mother's cafe. They threaten her with an accident if she doesn't pay protection money on time again the following week. They are discovered by McCall, who approaches them and requests that a crime be reported. They ignore him and advise him to dial 911. They confess to causing the fire at the restaurant in a video McCall recorded of them extorting a convenience store employee. McCall warns them that until they return the money, the news stations will air the video. He is being held at gunpoint by the police, but McCall soon beats both of them. They give the money back to Ralphie's mother. Teddy learns that Alina is missing from Slavy's girls and inquires of Mandy, who responds that she didn't really know Alina that well. He forces her to recall the evening she saw Alina in the hospital, and she describes a mysterious but friendly black man who also stopped by and asked about Alina. Teddy then kills her by strangling her after she lied to him. Teddy discovers video evidence of McCall entering the restaurant. He approaches McCall in his apartment, but McCall immediately recognizes through him and responds to his inquiries with his prepared responses. Teddy finds out more details on McCall. Teddy has the impression that whatever they are aware of regarding McCall is untrue. He waits outside in a car with Frank and another bad guy while the other enters the diner where McCall is eating. The man approaches him while holding a gun. Teddy is driving when a truck stops in front of the diner, blocking Teddy's view. McCall strikes the man in the stomach with his book before slamming his head into the table and breaking his neck to end his life. He leaves the diner and uses his cell phone to take pictures of Teddy and his men in their car. Teddy and his men follow McCall home since they know where he lives. They barge inside his apartment, only to discover that McCall is actually watching them with covert cameras in another room. McCall does leave town, but only to see his old pals Brian and Susan Plummer. They clearly have a history of collaboration for some spy agency. McCall inquires of Susan about Teddy and the individuals he works for. She informs McCall that the men he murdered were members of the Russian mafia, headed by Vladimir Pushkin. Teddy, whose true name is Nikolai, is the man Pushkin sends when something needs to be dealt with quickly. Susan forewarns McCall that these men will not stop until he and everyone he loves are dead. McCall tracks down Frank Masters and confines him in his car, which he has connected with a tailpipe hose. He warns Frank that if he doesn't provide him useful information about Pushkin's operations, he'll abandon him in the car to die. Frank eventually relents and takes McCall to a warehouse where Russians count and conceal massive pallets of money. McCall coerces the thugs into surrendering. He locks them in a room with all the money so the cops can find it. McCall goes to Frank's safe deposit box and retrieves some money, passports, and a USB stick, holding further material outlining Pushkin's operations and revealing everyone on Pushkin's payroll. McCall also locates and destroys one of Pushkin's oil tankers, as well as many trucks and a warehouse. Robert tells Teddy that he knows exactly who Teddy is and offers him the option to stop everything before Robert accomplishes the job and destroys the entire organization. Teddy discovers photos of McCall leaving work with Ralphie and believes he has finally found a pressure point on McCall. Two of Teddy's men kidnap Ralphie, Jenny, and other Homart employees, threatening to kill them until Frank meets Teddy where he blew up the tanker. When he fails to appear at the agreed, the henchmen and Homart prepare to execute one of McCall's co-workers. One of the mobsters takes Ralphie to find the source and is killed by McCall. Teddy and his other hired help arrive to Homart. They try to track down McCall and get killed one by one, as McCall travels about the shadowy warehouse installing traps using items acquired on location. He hangs one and stabs another through the neck with barbed wire. He battles and gets injured by the biggest of the wicked guys until he ultimately kills him. When Ralphie comes to assist McCall, he gets shot in the leg. McCall entices one of the last bad guys to the break room. When propane gas canisters in a microwave explode, Ralphie puts the electricity back on as directed, and the break room is demolished. When the propane explosion sends off the sprinklers, Teddy is the final man, seeking for McCall. Teddy locates Ralphie and is about to shoot him when McCall emerges from concealment with a stud ramset gun and shoots Teddy numerous times with it, until he walks up to him and shoots him in the throat. 3 days later, McCall appears in Pushkin's Moscow bathroom. While he is showered, McCall continuously switches on and off the lights and runs the sink water till it overflows. Pushkin speaks to him for a few minutes before McCall leaves. Pushkin returns his weapon to the sink. When he notices McCall has severed the electrical cables and left them exposed on the floor, Pushkin is standing in the water when the current reaches the line, electrocuting and killing him. McCall goes to Boston to resume his peaceful life. He is bringing groceries home when he is approached by Alina, who is healing from her injuries. She informs him that she has found a real job and has begun to read. She praises McCall for what he done and kisses him on the cheek before they part ways. McCall returns to his peaceful life, but this time he has a new purpose. He has designed an advertisement for people who are feeling stuck, with all odds stacked against them and no way out. One night at the diner, McCall receives a message requesting assistance. He simply says yes.